I am a random fish, and I have considered it my duty over the years to provide reviews, commentary, rants about things that just don't work in movies. However, something I haven't done is take the films that I don't like and think about how they could be different, how they could be improved. Now, something I did a while back, I did a pitch for a Darren Shan possible Demonata show that could have been shown on Netflix or whatever. And through this, I have decided that I wanted to talk about Superman Returns. And instead of bitching and moaning about all the horrible things that it did, I'm going to talk about what I would do differently with it. Now, before I continue, I want to just point out a character that I'm going to be talking quite a bit of in this review, and that's going to be Lex Luthor. Or, to give him his true form, if you support Lego, then you know who this is. This is the Lex Luthor in the Superman suit. For those of you who didn't see that as I just held it up to the camera. If the lighting's bad, I apologise. I think this is the best thing for me right now. It may not have been the best thing for this, but whatever. However, if you did see this, I'm going to show it up to the camera again. There it is. That is Lex Luthor in a Superman suit. Now, in DC Comics, he has worn this suit, and he is now a part of the Justice League. Now, I don't necessarily know because I don't follow DC in comics. I follow Marvel. Specifically, Spider-Man, the Ultimate, the Avengers, Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales, for those of you who don't know. And that sort of thing. Those are the kind of stories that I follow. But I am aware of DC's strength in comics, and I think this was a perfect representation of what I wanted to talk about with the revival of Superman Returns. So, I'm going to put this down, and I'm simply going to discuss with you what I would do differently with Superman Returns. Now, in the original, Superman comes back from a long stint on Krypton. Now, I'm going to keep this, but I want the timeline to be different. Superman was gone for a long time, to the point where the Earth had to survive without him. And in this universe, on this Earth, there is no Justice League, there is no Batman, there are no other superheroes, it was just Kal-El. So, in this instance, I wanted his stay in Krypton to be longer than he thought possible. That he got stuck traveling through space, he ended up falling into the Phantom Zone, something happened that prevented his return to Earth being quicker. And when he returns, the Earth is 40 to 50 years in the future. It's a long time. To the point where various characters have now passed on. They have all died. Lois Lane is gone. She married someone and had kids. Lex Luthor is gone. Perry White is gone. Jimmy Olsen's gone. All the people that Superman and his mother, of course, they've all passed on and died. So Kal-El returns to Earth. He's worried about the long stint that he's been away from. He doesn't know how much time has passed. He gets onto Earth and he sees a more modern Earth than he thought possible. The buildings are a bit sleeker. There's a bit more metallic to it. It's not full-blown future like in, say, Blade Runner or Back to the Future or something, but it is. You can tell it's more futuristic than it has been before. He lands in Metropolis. Everyone's shocked to see him. They don't know quite who he is or where he's been, and he has to reintroduce himself to a public that has since not only learned to move on from him, but they know Superman, but they don't recognize Kal-El. Now this confuses him, and I want to move on now to a section where he goes to the graveyards and he sees after he's told that it's 40 to 50 years into his future, as from when he left Earth to go back and find where Krypton used to be in space, and he flies off and he finds all the gravestones for Lois Lane, for Jimmy Olsen, for Perry White, for his mother as well. And of course he weeps for this. He also discovers that the Kent farm, is gone. That's all been eliminated. And Smallville has become... It's much more... It's still a nice rural town, but the Kent farm is no more. And there's, more stuff going on. And he, of course, is upset by this, and he's maddened by this, and he goes to the Fortress of Solitude, where he used to go. And he, of course, gets there, and he talks to his father through the crystals, and it turns out that Jor-El's programmed file doesn't understand what Superman was talking about, doesn't understand what the hell he was talking about, at all. And he questions, why is he so concerned? The Earth is safe, he's been here defending them. And Superman says, well, no, I haven't been defending them. I don't understand. I've been gone for 40 to 50 years. I don't understand what's happening. And Jor-El says, you haven't been gone. You've been right here the entire time. And Superman's going nuts. I have been gone. What are you talking about, Dad? And he then hears trouble going on in the city. And he flies in. And he flies into Metropolis. And there's already a Superman doing stuff. But this Superman is bald, and he's wearing the suit. This Superman is this guy. Now, of course, Superman is very concerned because he then flies off in a panic and finds the Lex Luthor grave. He then decides to go undercover, but he can't go undercover as Clark Kent, so he loses the suit and gets dressed into normal style clothes and goes wandering around and acts as someone who is a distant friend or a relative's friend or whatever of the Kents. And he doesn't give himself a last name, but he calls himself Connor as a tribute to the Teen Titans. He then runs off and starts asking questions like, is Lex, what happened to Lex Luthor, all this sort of thing. And they say, well, Lex Luthor died years ago. And they went, well, then who the heck is that guy? And he goes, well, it's Superman, obviously. And, he runs to the grave, he sees Lex's grave, it's confirmed that Lex is dead, when the other Superman lands beside him and simply says, I know that you're Kal-El of the former planet Krypton. And, Kal-El is sort of going, what the hell do you mean? What is happening here? Like you would. And the other Superman says to him, I was created by Lex Luthor. In Superman 4, if you remember correctly, he stole a bit of hair from Superman and threw it into, with a combination of various things, into enough power source that he created Nuclear Man. Now, what if, instead of doing that again, he simply combined a piece of the Superman hair that he still had with his own DNA, but left it alone enough as to grow as an actual baby, to the point where the former Miss Tessmacher, or whoever we can have at the time who would be a substitute for the character of Miss Tessmacher, would then be made pregnant, would then be given the illusion that she got pregnant by Lex, and she would then raise a child. And that child would be the combination, a true combination, of Lex and Superman. And the idea is that he loses his hair at a very early age, he becomes bald, he does all the things that he does, and he, through researching his dead father's stuff after his mother passes away, he finds that Lex stole a crystal. And he follows the energy signature like how Superman did in the first Dick Donner film, where he just went into the ice and threw the crystal. He does the same thing. He wanders into the middle and finds the fortress. He then goes in, and of course, the crystal recognizes that he is part Kryptonian, because that's what he is. And he talks to Jor-El, who does recognize that he doesn't look the same, but assumes that he made some sort of choice while he was on Earth, I'm guessing. And the two of them discuss what he can do to protect the Earth, and that's where it all comes from. Superman, of course, Kal-El, I should say in this, Kal-El then gets really concerned and sort of says, and then says, well, I mean, I'm back now, so you can stop. And he goes, why would I stop? I'm still here, I still have to do things. I'm Superman. And Kal-El goes, no, but I'm Superman, really. And there's this whole big thing between the two of them where they have a little fight, and the Lex Superman comes out on top. The public then sees this fight go down, and all of a sudden it's going, oh my god, there was another Superman before this one, oh my god, there's this alien, oh my god, and they start pulling out the old Daily Planet story arcs, and it's this whole thing about the rivalry between Lex and Superman, and everything else that kind of got buried, if you will, by the planet, because it's discovered that Lex bought the planet sometime before he died. And he, and all this stuff that Lex did was to hide what he was from his younger clone, if you will, combination with Clark, to become, to think he was a good man, to the point where he would then believe that what he was doing was justified. And it turns out that this guy's been slowly sort of taking the world into a dictatorship sort of grip. And Superman, of course, says, this is useless, what the hell, what's wrong with you? And he goes off and he mopes around for a bit. And that's when he runs into, I give you people, Lionel Lane. Now, granted, I know there's Lionel Luthor from Smallville, but I'm keeping Lionel because I'm keeping the LL thing with Lois. So Lionel Lane, he finds Lionel Lane. Now, the reason why he keeps Lois's last name is that Lois was more synonymous with Fane than her husband was. Therefore, the last name was kept as Lane. And the son and Lionel wanted to keep the same thing going, so he's stuck with Lane as well. They then have a conversation regarding this, with Clark still dressed up in his civilian-style clothes, not showing his true identity to Lionel. And they have a conversation about his mother, and he says that how his mother wasn't necessarily cold, but was kind of distant for a long time. This was because of her work, but she was still a doting mother and a loving mother. And eventually Lionel, through some research and everything else, because obviously he has all of his own mother's stuff, and he's been forbidden through the police. Oh look, there's sirens. Ain't that lovely? Lovely jubbly. But there's all these things that he was banned from doing because of Lex, and now he is 100% living underground. He's doing this stuff illegally. He's posting this stuff all over the internet. He's posting on a blog, all this sort of thing. And eventually he then finds out that this guy that he's been talking to isn't some relative of the Kents, it is Clark Kent. And so he pesters him for information, at which point he then puts together what his mother put together all those years ago. Clark Kent is Superman. And they, of course, have that conversation about where the hell have you been, what happened, how did this, why are you gone for 40 to 50 years, my mother went nuts over you, blah, blah, blah. She used to tell me stories, all this sort of thing. And eventually it would lead to this big dramatic thing of him yelling at Superman, but then why the hell did you come back? Why are you still here? And Superman says, I have nowhere else to go. Earth is my home. And this is the big emotional thing in the film, where Superman finally admits that he has no damn idea what he wants. He knows that there is this new Superman, and he appears to be doing a very good job. This is a Superman who, despite Lex's interventions, is still a good person. He is still keeping the world safe. He's doing it with a bit more force than Superman would do, but at the same time he is keeping people safe. He is protecting the people, he's protecting the innocent people. He is taking down the lawbreakers. He's not killing them. He is sending them to jail, but they are being sent to jail with broken bones. And, possible life-threatening injuries, but time can tell that later. But Lionel gives him the speech of sort of saying, my mother used to tell me all these stories about Superman, about the things that he stood for, and my dad, despite whatever issues he may have had with Superman, he still backed him. He still preferred him over all this horrible stuff. To which Superman finally says, well then who the hell was your dad? And Lionel says, I don't know, I never met him. Now this is crucial because that's the same thing that they did in Superman Returns. But the big reveal isn't that he is in fact Superman's kid. The fact is that this was a thing where Lois had a moment, and she had a moment, she tried to have a social life, it didn't work out, and all this stuff happened, and blah, 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 and she did get married, and all of this stuff happened, but she never talks about his father because he went away somewhere or did something. He got killed in the line of duty. He may have been a police officer, may have been an army cadet, I don't know. These are one of the things that's left open to interpretation because nothing is actually left of his. Lois gets rid of everything because she disconnects entirely from the rest of the world. She loved Superman and lost him. She loved another man, had a child, married him, had a child with him, and then he died. She cut herself off. She stopped caring. She did all of this. She focused solely on her work. Lionel is a Lane through and through. He is not connected to Superman. He is not connected to any other named character that you can possibly think of. The idea is that he is a character. He is Lois Lane in male form, essentially. And he then gives Superman the whole speech about, you're still the savior of the Earth, you did all these amazing things, blah, blah, blah. Are you still a superhero? And Superman finally gets up the courage, finally works up the balls, he gets up, and he goes off, and he says, I am still Kal-El, I am still son of Krypton, I'm still the last son of Krypton. And he goes back to the Fortress of Solitude, where he tells Jor-El everything. He tells Jor-El's ghost everything, and Jor-El's form just says, I don't know what to do with this information, I don't know what you want me to do. And Superman just says, look, just tell me what this guy's been doing whilst I've been away. Is there anywhere specifically that he likes to go continuously? And at which point you then get the other Superman, the Lex Superman, turn up at the door. Now, during all this stuff that's been happening with him, with Clark Kent, Kal-El Superman, the Lex Superman has been flying around doing all sorts of stuff, and he's been having more and more problems. Ever since the real Superman came back, after their fight, he's been having a lot of problems. He feels like he's been, for lack of a better term, glitching, and as he flies back to the fortress to try and deal with this sort of thing, he doesn't lose power, but he's stumbling, he's not using as much power as he could do, and he falls into the fortress, and Kal-El sees him. As he gets up, his skin starts to go slightly weirder. It's more grey than it's ever been before. He gets up and he's struggling and he starts not being able to speak right. Yes, I am creating the Bizarro Superman. However, here's the big difference. In this version of events, this is like the Superman who has... this is a Bizarro version of Superman, but it's becoming less and less like Lex. His Kryptonian DNA is sort of hemorrhaging within his biological form because it's overriding it, because it touches Superman's. It's all sorts of stuff to do with, like, the idea is that Kryptonians and humans should never really have, like, the Kryptonian mixing with other DNAs has never been advised. And Jor-El sort of says there's a reason why we never bred with other planets as part from our own on Krypton, not because we were elitist, but because we didn't know how our DNA was going to react to other species' DNAs, because we'd only just learned of other species existing on Krypton as it is. So, of course, they never tried mixing the DNA with other species before, so, of course, it leads to this thing in humans. You then get the Lex Superman becoming more Bizarro Superman, and the two of them start having their fight, and they're flying through the city, they're punching each other, they're flying around the fortress, they're doing their fight, they get to the city, they're fighting in the city, and they crash into the city. It's this big emotional fight scene where the Bizarro Superman is saying, I am Superman, I am the one who's meant to be doing this, I was here, you weren't, get lost, I don't care, piss off. And he's fighting Superman, and he's beating him down, and they get into the city, and there's a crash, there's blood everywhere. And Lionel Lane runs up and shouts, be careful, Superman. and everyone stops, and Kal-El stands up, and it's Kal-El, it's the proper Superman, the cape is billowing, it's the big epic ba ba da ba da ba 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 moment. And he stands there, bold as brass, and the whole public goes, it is the, oh my god, it is the real Superman, oh my god, this is so cool. And he stands there, and the cape's billowing, he says, and he picks up the Bizarro Superman, who by this point is slightly unconscious, and he says, "My name is Kal-El of Krypton. I am the sole survivor of a dead world, and I am your protector now and forever. I fight for truth, justice, and the world." And he punches Bizarro, and he goes flying off into the sky. Bizarro stops himself because he wakes up, and he looks down at Superman and says, "Me am no welcome here. Me be back." He turns and he flies off into outer space. Or at least we think he does. He flies off somewhere. Superman then stands there and watches him leave. Lionel then steps forward and says, "Superman, you're finally back. How does it feel now that you've returned to Earth?" And Superman simply turns around and says, "However long I've been gone, I am willing to earn back your trust. However long I plan to stay, I'm hoping that you will watch me through it. I lost a lot of people when I came back, but now I'm hoping I can build new friendships and new partnerships here on Earth." And the film ends with, the film doesn't necessarily end, but it ends-ish with this backing track shot of Superman talking to Lionel Lane, as well as all these other reporters who've all crowded around, and one of the kids runs forward with the camera and starts clicking pictures, and Lionel goes, "Stick with me, kid, I'll show you." And the kid's slightly got ginger hair, like Jimmy Olsen, and he's happily clicking away, and it's one of those things. And the camera sort of pulls back, pans back, and then we see the Earth, and we see Superman sort of look up, and then we look back, and we see that happen, and then we see the Bizarro Superman fly around, and he flies to the camera, and he looks, and he smiles, and then he flies off in the opposite direction as to how Christopher Reeve used to leave every movie from the Dick Donner Superman, to show that this is a different version, this is not the real Superman. And that would be it. That would be my version of Superman Returns. Now, I know that I did a lot of really weird stuff and quite random stuff, and I went into some obtuse details. So if you want me to possibly explain more, please ask me to do so in the comments. I will write a comment about it as much as I can. This is just something that I've always preferred. I don't like the idea of just complaining about a movie. I would like to talk about how to make it better. I don't know, this may be my thing. I don't know about reviewing movies so much. We'll just have to see. But if you give a shit, please like the video, please subscribe. Tell me what other things you'd like me to other films you might want me to rewrite, maybe, in the future. If not, that's fine. I'm just making silly videos for the sake of making silly videos. This has just been me talking to a camera for however many minutes I've been talking to a camera. So on that note, my friends, be safe, look after each other, remember, movies are the best thing ever. Randomfish, out.